Ready? Morning, everybody. Thanks for coming. I know it's hard to get up after partying so hard last night. And my name's Rich Rumble. A little bit about me. I'm curious and naughty by nature. I am certifiable. I've even gotten certified. I'm driven. I am humble, if I do say so myself. And I have a great sense of humor, and my mom told me so. So brief intro into RFID. I'm not going to get into the weeds too much about the protocols or anything you need to really understand other than it is super easy to clone badges in these days. Sure. Sorry about that. So you use RFID all the time in your hotel badge, your work badge, even the running bibs. When you go to a marathon, often you'll find that they are equipped with an RFID reader so that when you cross the start line and the finish line, they can keep track of you. Again, these are some of the details of RFID, like what the ranges are on reading them and the different tags. You find them reading the animal tags, the badge tags, window tag. Does anybody have a Mike's or a Crew Car Wash tag? Anybody familiar with the car wash tag? There you go. And those read at a different range, and they're much better, actually. So near field communication, I'm going to talk about that briefly. It's what you use in your phone for Apple Pay, Google Pay. It's very passive, and it's often what the badge readers or the new access control systems are moving to. They use they're still very short distances. Bluetooth is something that is not really used in RFID or badge reading or authentication, but I wanted to mention some interesting facts I found out while researching this topic. Your tire pressure sensors in your car actually use a Bluetooth signal, and you basically have 4 unique trackers in your car that could be used to track you all over town. If someone were to equip your town with enough readers all over the place, you could actually track someone using that. So I thought that was a little interesting. Your phone gives off a Bluetooth signal, so you could track someone by your phone. I'm sure that's all been covered prior. So since my talk is on RFID badge skimming, I wanted to talk about a few people who have done some great work in the area and inspired me to do the same or do something similar. Over here on the right, you see the Tastic RFID thief. What he did was Francis Brown took a RFID reader. It's usually what you find in the parking garage. It's about a foot in size. Either way, it's square, and you see the large coil of wire there that reads your card from about 3 feet. So he thought it would be a good idea to put that in his man bag / man purse and walk around next to people and read badges without having to get so close that it's almost a game of grab ass, if you will. Because you usually do have to be very close to people, and they don't like you, doing such things. Some other ideas that people have had are these 2 devices you see at the bottom. One in the middle is the Wi-Fi tool. It's a great little tool. It basically does the same thing that Francis did with his reader, although in the middle of his reader, you can see he put an Arduino reader and a small memory card. Again, watch his talk. It's very good. So the Wi-Fi tool will vampire tap into the innards, the wires that run from the reader to the controller. And the wires that talk from the reader to the controller are not encrypted. They use a wigand protocol, which is essentially a plain text protocol. It's very well understood and easy to tap into and get the data off of it. The tool to the left is called the BLE key. So instead of using Wi-Fi to communicate to this tool, you would use Bluetooth. In the next slide, I'll kind of show you what that tool looks like. So this is another reader. It's a little smaller, and someone has basically taken the wires, and you can see how they push them down through these little, we'll call them vampire taps. And these dig into the wire and are making contact with the wire. And as a badge is read, it will start to write down what the number of the badge was. And you could walk by with your phone after it's stored up these badges, and you could download over Bluetooth all the badges that were read, and you can actually send a signal to the phone with this little app you see on the right. This can replay the badges. It can, again, download them for you to then place in a cloner, and you could clone the badge. So this is what inspired some of this talk here. Were some of these devices. And again, the communication is plain text from the badge reader to the controller. So I just want to reiterate that. That'll come up later. Again, acknowledging some previous work. So as far back as 2003, hackers have been cloning badges and making it easy for the public to do it. Chris Pageant and these other two gentlemen at the top, they even showed their congressman how easy it was to clone the badges for the government. And they were up in arms back then about it. And some changes were made and some improvements were made to the cards as a result. And I wanted to call out some of these other people as inspiration for me in this talk. And I'm sure I'm missing quite a few. So our idea started with going to a client's engagement. We're doing a follow-up engagement, not related to RFID or pen testing, or physical pen testing at all. And the client, on day 2 of our return there, the client's RFID badge readers had changed, and we took note of it. And we asked the client, why did you change your readers? Who upgraded them? And what's the reasoning? And they actually had no idea. They didn't control the readers. They were just one tenant of many in a building. So the readers are actually controlled by the building, what do you call it? The property management. And so they were just badging in blindly and just going upstairs, even though their badge readers changed and nobody informed them that they were changing. So this gave us an idea. And so would the readers notice, would the employees notice if the readers changed again? And so we had a light bulb moment, and we asked the client, please, can we make some skimmers for your badge readers? And they're like, yeah, but we don't want you to actually get the IDs. We don't want you to actually get the numbers. So in these, the memory cards that we were going to use, there's a config file. And in that config file, you tell it what baud rate to expect, what rate of data is going to come to that. And if you give it the wrong baud rate, you will get a bunch of gibberish, but it will put it at, it will do it line by line. So you can count the lines rather than counting, or getting the actual card data. So we were getting gibberish, but we're getting gibberish once per line. And so that's how we counted how many people were coming into the building or were using the reader without actually getting the data off of it. And the clients were happy with that solution. But that took us actually a couple minutes to figure out how to do. On Brian Krebs, I'm sure you've seen ATM skimmers that are similar to this. They just fit over the unit, and your badge, your credit card is read twice. So once by the unit and then once by the actual reader, the ATM behind it. And then we saw this one on Krebs, and it really blew our mind. Yeah, that's what I said. And so they basically took a laptop and made an entire housing over the ATM reader. They took a laptop and readers, and they mimicked what was going to happen on the screen behind it once you put your card in and once you put your PIN in. And there's there's a cell phone also up in all those electronics that sends your your card over the phone real time to the attackers. So they can be across the world and know what your credit card was instantly. But this was somewhere in Brazil, I believe. And this is really the inspiration for our card readers. So we called this Project Cosplay because we were just making a little costume, it seemed like, for the badge readers. So what we came up with was $15. We could get off of eBay a card reader, and we could make a mold of the card reader. And essentially we made a mold of it, made a plaster positive. We poured in the mold some plaster, and we built up around the plaster. And around the plaster, we put some ABS plastic and made another mold of that. And here in a second, you'll see what we kind of came up with. So this is our first attempt at making a clone badge reader. You can ignore the sticker on there. That's just stuff we stick all around the office. But this was the reader, and we got some really good success with this. Clients did not bat an eye. These were the readers they were using. These are the new readers. They had these really old gray ones that really look a lot different than what these do. So this was the reader we came up with. The client was pretty pleased with it. You can't tell from this picture, but there is about a 1/4 inch gap between the back of this reader and the actual reader. So you can fit all the electronics you need to. And after this talk, I'll be over here to the right of the room towards the windows, and you guys can come up and see all the electronics and how small everything is and how it all fits inside these readers. So please see me after the show. Then we had to make another cover because the client thought this was too effective. We left it up there for about 48 hours, and they were not that pleased. So they thought, okay, if the readers change again, then they're sure to notice. Somebody's bound to turn them in, or somebody's bound to hesitate. So they asked us if we could do something like carbon fiber, and we're like, okay, sure, maybe. So we bought some carbon fiber, and it took us about 2 or 3 days to figure out how to do it. We use bar resin instead of like the real resin, because my wife is very sensitive to smells, and she would have killed me if it smelled like polyester resin. So essentially we took a Lego brick for the light section. We cast that in silicone. We poured bar resin in that and made a nice clear piece and stuck it in there. And these were the readers that we came up with. The first two on the left are not that great, but that was our first attempt at doing it. But you can see this is 8 Legos wide on the 8 dots, I guess, 8 dots of Legos wide on the reader itself. The one on the right is probably our third attempt and is much better. And again, come see me after the show and you can see how thin and small it is. None of these were adhered to the wall in any way. Anyone could have tugged them off. There was actually a note underneath them that said, "Congratulations, you found an implant. Please come get some extra credit at work," that kind of thing. No one hesitated. So for about a week, their badge scanners changed constantly, and it's their external badge scanner on the outside of their building. There's nothing internal yet. So now we had to make one that was really crappy. We used a plastic resin, and then we cracked it with a hammer. And then we glued it all back together and stuck some wires out of it. And that one, after 10 people had used it, got pulled off the wall, and that person got a little attaboy. She thought it would be a shock hazard. It's direct current. I don't want to get into it, but it wouldn't be. But yeah, we had to basically make this thing look like a can of smashed ass to get somebody to notice that it's not right. And they were constantly changing, so that was fun. We had another client who got on board with the idea, and they liked what we were doing. With our other client, they had actually heard about it, and not through us, but through the grapevine, I suppose. And we made these ultra thin ones. These do not cover the entire scanner. These are just like a fascia that goes over it. And again, you'll probably have to see me because the pictures don't do it justice. They also did not want it to look exactly right. So I don't know if you can notice at the top, there's kind of a dip in the top, and I actually used hot glue for the window there. So it's really dull. It's really hard to see. This one's really scratched up. The HID, again, the picture doesn't do it justice, but the HID, that's the branding at the bottom, is not very clear. It doesn't look quite right. Even the color is off. They had blue scanners, I want to say, and we put black over them, and nobody seemed to notice on those. Okay, so what else could we do? So the second client really liked the scanner, but they thought maybe there's something else they could do because the other stuff had been done, and we knew it was probably going to work with their clientele as well. So we took the reader that we used to have for our mold making. We took one of the RFID tools. They weren't okay with us writing down the badges. So this time we used the RFID tool to listen to the Wygand protocol. We double-sided taped that to the wall next to the reader and put an out of order sign on it. And that worked. So people would badge on the evil twin over there on the right, and then that wouldn't work. It would beep, but nothing happened at the door. So they would then badge on the out of order one. Sometimes they got both, and it did work. So sometimes they kind of went in the middle of the two, split the difference, and they didn't know which one it was, so it worked. We had one lady who we gave some extra points to. She moved the out of order sign from the left to the right. So she was real nice. So we're happy to have her. She's a good egg. All right, so people didn't seem to know what to do with these scanners. Nobody batted an eye as long as they worked. So what could we do to actually break the scanner without breaking the scanner? So we used our entire covers, our carbon fiber ones, at the second client, and we put a piece of metal mesh, the screen door mesh you get at the hardware store. It is dirt cheap, and it blocks the scanner from working. I then put on a navy blue blazer, and when the badge wouldn't work, I would come out, and I had a laptop with me and a scanner because we didn't have their badge scanned yet, so I needed to get a badge scan. So I had my laptop and a scanner, and we'd ask them to scan their badge, and I'll say, no, it's still not working. What is your manager's name? What is your ID? What is the answer to your secret password, or your secret question rather? And they'd be like, I don't know. What's my secret question? Is it a mascot? No. Yeah. And we just say vague things like that. And they would say, oh, Wolverines. Okay. Yeah, sure. All right. Go ahead. Go in. We knew they were actual employees before doing that. We also had a secondary, the company has secondary traps inside. So we knew we weren't just letting any Joe Schmo in. But yeah, we were able to social engineer the people into giving us information they wouldn't give. There is no security staff at this entrance. They've never seen a security guard probably before, but here I am coming out of the building asking them these questions. So I was pretty excited at first, and then I really started to feel bad for the client, because everybody was just giving me anything I asked for, as long as I had the navy blue blazer and it said security on my lapel, so they had to do it. But nobody questioned me, nobody asked me anything, but I figure you could probably take me out of the equation and just put some sort of call box on the side of the door, and maybe a cell phone that's in speaker mode, and just stick it in the box there, and you could ask people through the little speaker there those same questions. And it looks official, it's on the building, so it's supposed to be there, right? So it would probably work. I have not been able to do this. And you could break the RFID badge reader in the same way we were doing with the Faraday cage, or you could use one of these RFID tool, or the RFID tool or the Blee key. They can actually DOS the Wygand wire and keep people from badging in. So you wouldn't actually have to make a cover. You could actually break the readers without actually having to break the reader. You can kind of DOS the command and control that way. So other people have noticed that there are plenty of room for activities inside these readers. So at first we showed you the Tastic RFID thief that he put in his man bag. A gentleman on Twitter, Silas, noticed that you could stick this device here, which is a Proxmark 3 revision 4 reader. You could stick that inside of a reader and no one's going to know. So you don't have to make a fancy cover like we made. The ones we made are filled with epoxy and gel, so you do have to make them. But in this reader, which is very common and I've seen on plenty of buildings, you can just pop it in there. There's actually no tamper or theft evidence with this particular reader. Other readers do have a little light on the back, and they let you know when someone has taken it off the wall or tried to mess with the wires, that kind of thing. This reader is not one of those. However, I will caveat the tamper light and the alarm that it can send. A lot of people don't have that hooked up. A lot of people don't monitor that. And even if it is hooked up, again, they probably don't even monitor it. So you might want to test, if you get permission at work, if you can take your badge reader off the wall and put it back on and see if anybody notices, because that should trip an alarm for someone. So what could you do with, I wanted to come up with worst case scenarios for badges. If I had this thing on for a week, could I ransom your badges? Could I sell your information to a competitor? Could I threaten your company by releasing them to the public if they didn't pay me some money? Now, you're going to have to re-ID all your people, but could I, in the meantime, get a little extra money while doing it? Probably not. I think they'd probably just step up security if that happened, but I kind of like to think viciously, and that's the most vicious thing I could think of with RFID badges. I do want to talk about some solutions, because badges, some badges are very hard to clone, and some badges are, as of yet, not able to be cloned. So the CEO's Corporate 1000 badge from HID, these are very good badges. They are exclusively from HID. I don't believe you can buy them anywhere else. Somebody may have to correct me if I'm wrong. We have clients with these, so they were not interested in our RFID ideas, our badge reader ideas, but they were more interested in the cloner, or I'm sorry, the implants that go behind the reader, because that protocol from the reader to the controller is essentially plain text, and anyone can read it. So they were more interested in that. So now you have a secure card, but you have an insecure reader. So I just want to point out that there are secure cards, but sometimes the reader is the weakest link. Again, this is just talking about the CEO's corporate card, and the fact that HID is the only person who is an authorized seller of them. You have to apply for these cards. They don't just let any Joe Schmo off the reservation buy them. They actually vet you for these cards, and then so researchers, I think, have had a hard time getting their hands on spare equipment and things like that, but I'm sure it's available somewhere on eBay if somebody looked hard enough. It's also a proprietary format, and this has not served HID well in the past, so I would implore them to get that publicly inspected so that other people might find the chinks in the armor, the holes that may exist in it, and so they can get them patched. I want to talk about some of the competitors that they have, because they're not the only game in the market, but they're the one I run into the most. Endala, AGC, Assa Abloy has bought door makers, lock makers, badge makers. If you want to get in the physical access control game, Assa Abloy will buy you. Your mileage may vary. Johnson Controls, Honeywell, Vanderbilt, OpenPath, and Keezy. I'm running a little short on time, so I'm just going to talk about OpenPath, I think, with these slides, because it's something we've been evaluating, and they took into consideration most of the security problems that have plagued RFID readers in the past. So the pros, encrypted from the reader to the controller, and from the badge to the reader itself. So they have encryption all the way through, which is where you want to be. They integrate with everything. You can schedule the locking and all this great stuff. They're pretty cheap as well. So our client has been evaluating them for about a month, and I think they're going to go with them over some of the others, but there are some good alternatives. Keezy is another one that is on par. Photo IDs are something that, this technology works with your phone. So you have the phone in your pocket, you actually go up and touch the reader just with your hand, just to let it know you're present. And then the phone sends the signal, or I'm sorry, the reader sends a signal to the phone replies, you're either let in or you're not. Some places like to have the old school badge on a person, or a picture ID, and won't be satisfied just with a phone in your pocket. If you are issuing phones to your employees, that might get expensive when they lose their badge. So I think that might be a con. Most people have a phone, I think, so you might have to buy phones for people if that's going to be your only badge. I don't trust the cloud. It's actually hosting. I don't know if anybody's aware, but that's just hosting. And lockdown can be enabled by anyone. So this is where you suspect something is happening at the building and you push a panic button on your phone. And it seems like anyone in the organization who has the app can do that. So maybe you get a panic situation, or someone's sitting on the phone, or your kid doing it while you're at home. Who knows? Your cat walks across your phone. You know how it is. Some access control alternatives. So it's not just RFID that's out there. There's actually QR codes, or laser, reading the QR codes with your with an app. So you show your phone to the UPC, the scanner, and it reads your phone, and off you go. You can print out these visitor badges. I've been to a few places that have them. This was the name I was going by when I visited there, and that's what I put up there. And so it was effective. I wouldn't say it's great. And again, I'm not sure how long these live, or if they're one-time use kind of things. I haven't investigated them exactly fully. Deviant Olem, I want to give him a shout out. He talks about door fitment and the way things should fit properly on the doors. There's a lot of lock picking. I'm sure we've all seen it. They can go over the door. They can go under the door. RFID is going to be the last thing on your mind if you watch this man's talk. He gets into buildings like nobody's business. Did anybody see when Dave Kennedy blew the vape smoke through the doors, and then there's a little sensor at the top, and a little exit sensor that goes off, and he pushes the doors open into a big cloud of smoke? You know what? Thinking back on it, I should have put it right up here, shouldn't I? Yeah, so it's well documented. Again, Francis Brown's Tastic RFID Thief, RFI Dignity, are two good talks by him. I cannot say some of these other names. Jasic. So this guy understands RFID on a level that I could never hope to. And he talks about all the pain points, all the problems that they've had with RFID in the past, and he really addresses them well. He even brought up something I never knew about, was there's a crime scene card for hotels. So if you go up to a hotel, something happens in a hotel, the police have a crime scene card that will disable the reader for I don't know how long, but nobody can get in or out, even the hotel staff, unless you have this crime scene card. So it basically locks down. It seems like a bad idea if somebody were ever to figure out that crime scene card. It may just be the same key over and over. I'm not 100% sure, but you could probably just run down the hallway and crime scene card the whole thing. And then the police will have to show up to undo it, right? So maybe you can threaten the hotel with, I'll crime scene card your hallways if you don't give me some money, or the honeymoon suite, whatever. So for mold making and the things that we took on and the things we didn't know how to do, YouTube was a great inspiration, or helped us understand what we were going to do, and that's why some of those turned out so crappy. And when you come outside and see, you'll see how crappy they are in real life, actually. But they fooled people left and right. It was amazing. We expected to get caught, and we weren't. Chris Hagnatty does a lot of social engineering, and it kind of inspired my security guard idea and my my call box idea that we haven't done yet, but I wish we could have. So basically, that's the talk. Come see me for your touch and feel session, and then you can also see the devices I've made. So I'm ready for questions and answers if anybody wants one. Yeah, sure. Have I dealt with personal identification? Personal identity identification. I don't think I have.
Okay. I know, like, Department of Defense cat cards.
Cat cards. No, I've not been up on that. This is more, I guess, the generic, like, private sector kind of stuff. Yeah. Anyone else? Sure. Sure. Yeah. So obviously you could use them. So the question was, could you use the badges just for a pen test? And absolutely, you could definitely do that. And that's kind of the point of why we started it. Right. If you catch the right person, maybe put them on after hours, and maybe the cleaning staff shows up late at night, and maybe you get the cleaning staff. You're more prone to get the cleaning staff at that point, maybe. And the cleaning staff usually has access to about everything. Anybody else? Going once? Going twice? Yes? Have I tried the brute forcing of identities? Yes. So we have clone cards. We've done the brute forcing. We've used the Wi-Fi tool and the bleed key. They make everything so much simpler. And again, very smart people put those together. I just am standing on the shoulders of those giants. Yep. Right. So maybe replay the card over and over. No, the software does not. So the software can trigger when there's the same badge one after the other. But I think that, I don't know where that lies, but I know there are organizations where if you give, you badge, you hand it to your buddy behind you and they badge, then it's locked out. So for 2 minutes for that badge, other badges can read through. I'm not sure where the logic lies in that, but yeah, that's a good question. All right. Well, thank you guys.